Vintage racing has long had a home here in Monterey. Laguna Seca regularly brings out collectors who want to fully enjoy their expensive toys. But that doesn't mean this is a safe, sterile track. No, sir. Ask any driver who's attempted to push a car to its limit here, and they can attest to the difficulty of this short, hilly, and dusty circuit. Our drivers today will be wringing every last ounce of speed from these classic cars. We'll see who gets to taste that champagne just like old times as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenveld. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, Laguna Seca sees a lot of use here on iRacing, but it seems to divide opinions.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. People on iRacing seem to be very opinionated about this track that was originally constructed in 1957. Now, in its time, Laguna Seca has hosted its share of real-world racing series like IMSA, Kart, MotoGP, and starting again next year, IndyCar. Now, throughout the years, the circuit has seen quite a bit of layout changes. The biggest happened in 1988, where the straight between current day Turn 2 and Turn 5 was demolished and a new section was added. This extended the track length to its current day 3.6 kilometers, just enough to meet the minimum requirement to host a MotoGP event. Now, Laguna Seca is mostly known for its famous corkscrew corner, in which cars plunge down several meters while maneuvering a tight chicane. But the rest of the track isn't a walk in the park either, with turn 6 onto the radial straight and rainy curve as some really difficult examples. And even the straights around Laguna Seca are tricky, as they are curved just enough that the drivers cannot take them flat out today. So to show you viewers how these challenges look like from inside the car, let's hop on board our GSRC LOTUS 49 as we take you on a lap around Laguna Seca.
Alright, we're in the GSRC LOTUS 49, so let's do a lap around Laguna Seca. Turn 1 is actually a turn in this car. You need a big lift to get over the hump, but make sure to keep it planted so that you can confidently get on the brakes down into the end ready hairpin. It'll be very easy to lose the rear under braking, or just come in too hot and slide wide. Square off the exit and then try to get the car off to the left for the entry to turn 3. After that, you've got a short burst to turn 4, which will need a dab of the brakes. This is a corner where it'll pay off to be able to get to the power early. Anyone who can't find traction will be susceptible down into turn 5, where passes are likely to be attempted. But this uphill bend will punish your lap times if you don't keep it tucked in nicely to the apex. Once again, get on the gas as soon as you can to keep your momentum uphill. Then, the treacherous turn 6 needs a big stomp of the brakes, a smooth turn in, and a prayer. Since we're still trudging uphill, you guessed it, get onto the power quickly. Be wary of the car breaking loose on this climb though. Set up to the left and brake super early to get it woed up over the blind crest into the corkscrew. The compression at the bottom allows you to put your right foot down sooner than you'd expect, but you don't get much of it. Rainy curve needs a big lift to get the nose to tuck in the late apex. Then switch sides and slow it up for turn 10. Another corner with lots of banking, it pays to keep it all the way to the inside. Then you've got your last good chance for a pass, the final hairpin. Ideally though, you'll want to make sure and not sacrifice your corner exit because of the very quick front stretch. Hopefully you kept it all together and have finished a lap around Laguna Seca.
There you see what we mean about the straights not being quite straight and how tough it is in the Lotus 49 without the downforce that it has. Cars have just got out on track, so we got a little bit of time. Why don't we step over to look at the points, starting with the overall driver standings. Now, last week we reported that Gary Thiel was supposed to lose the points lead, but with the drop weeks that came into play, that wasn't fully true. He's saved by the bell a little bit, but only 3 points between himself and Michel Dudignon. Still, Michel jumps up 3 points with his win last week, and David Gasper's lack of attendance has brought him down to third. Dimitri Hudaludi suffers the same fate, coming over from the SRFs and not really showing up a lot lately. Marco Kika jumps up 2 spots. What a great season he's had. Just both consistency and some speed for the Finn, bringing him up the order. They also carry what they call a F2 championship. It's sort of an amateur championship. Johan, what are we looking at there?
Well, there has been 2 drivers on top in the Formula 2 Championship this season, and those we see on top still. Matt Wright is currently leading Hideko Koifisto, only 8 points between the Australian and the Finnish driver. Really close so far, but behind them is the Americans closing in, or at least trying to. Don Good is leading the North American ensemble there, only 42 points behind the leader. And Andrew Eng had a good run last time around in Bathurst. He overtook Robert Reynolds for P4 in the Formula 2 Championship.
Now, if you're wondering about the Constructors' Championship, they do it a little bit unique, just like they did back in '67. So it's essentially a Nations Cup. Now, the U.S., because of Teal getting bumped up with those drop weeks, moves them up to first, even though he had a bad week last week, and the U.K. slips down to second. Mick Claridge hasn't been having as good of a season as some of the ones he's had in the past. Finland sticks there in third. Now, interestingly, fourth is tied, even though each of the nations have jumped up individually a different amount of positions. Dudignon helping themselves back up to the fourth spot, the only one carrying the torch for France there. And in case you've never watched the Lotus 49 World Cup, Johan, why don't you familiarize our viewers with today's race details?
Yeah, today we have round 9 of our season 3 of 2018. 12 rounds there are, with 2 drop weeks. That's what the 2 watermarks stand for on the bottom of the line. The race distance today, 24 laps with open setups. That means that the drivers can tweak the setups just to their liking to battle the curves here in Laguna Seca. And as you see, since last season, we have a new scoring mechanism on the bottom, with 40 points going to the victor, 35 to P2, and 30 if you finish third.
Now we get to qualifying. Actually, before we get to qualifying, if we could give a little bit of a plug here. iRacing has all kinds of action like this. In fact, if you want more of it, you can find it on the iRacing Esports Network. It's a new channel that they've started up separate from their other one that covers a lot of official racing, including all their world championships from dirt to pavement. If you like racing on iRacing, go check that out. It's great action out there. Now that we can finally really look at our qualifying, Mick Claridge leads the way, and in fact, he's about to finish his second lap here, his first one in 1:19.3. Let's see if he can improve upon that. He's got 2/10 over his main rival, Michel Dudignon. So as he comes out of the final hairpin, let's see what this one is, if it's any faster. As across the line, no, it is not. It's about 3/10 slower for him.
Michel Dudignon already completed his second lap, so that means that Claridge will at least start in front of his French rival. That's interesting, Joe, because we were looking at the practice times earlier, from earlier today, and Dudignon was actually faster in that one, around a tenth quicker than Mick Claridge. So I think that Dudignon was basically showing what he can in qualifying so far, but Claridge just had an incredibly quick first lap time, and that put him on pole so far.
Here's Gary Teal working his way out of the last hairpin. He sits in fifth, a little far down the order for our current championship points leader. So let's see if this one's faster, and it is, but just by 3/100ths of a second, so that's not going to gain him any spots.
At least it shows consistency, and that's also important around here. But in qualifying, you just want raw speed. Gary Teal, who's probably looking forward to the driver that's still in P2, Michel Dudignon, because they are fighting at the moment for that P1 position in the championship. Also a shout out, we mentioned him earlier when we were talking about the standings in the Formula 1 championship. Marco Kika is doing quite well. He's currently sitting P4 in qualifying.
This is Randy Huff working his way around, but he's completed both of his laps, so you can see he's just going to head into the pits from here. Only drivers yet to take times are Robert Reynolds and Brian Beers. And apparently Johnny Bell has a birthday shout-out on his car. Nathaniel, I think it is. I'm trying to make it out myself. Can't quite see from our cameras. We'll get more glances at it, hopefully, this race. Hopefully it doesn't wreck out early so that we can get it on there.
At least it's a birthday matches for Luigi fan, it seems like.
Yeah, that's a good point. Brian Beers across the line. A new name out here. It is first lap, a 1:26.7. So only going to be good enough for 18th, which is the last car with a lap out there. But as you mentioned, consistency important. So just keeping it on the track out on Laguna Seca probably will gain you some spots. Incredibly difficult in some places around here.
Yeah, exactly. Like we mentioned in the track description earlier in the broadcast, it's such a difficult track in this car. We have a lot of straights where in other cars you're used to basically taking a breather for a few seconds and focusing on the next corner. But here you almost have to treat the straights as corners because even a little kink would just give you oversteer, and it's difficult to control the car around Laguna Seca because of that.
That'll settle out our qualifying as everybody's got their laps in. So let's go through their starting grid. Mick Claridge, as we mentioned, has put it on pole, and Michel Dudignon only took his 2 laps, but could only get a 19.5. So he'll start on the outside of the front row. Ove Trangarade will be starting in 3rd with Marco Kika putting in 4th. Gary Teal starts 5th. Not sure that he's going to come away with the championship lead after today. Nicola Cocci will be P6. Benjamin Zocco starts in 7th with Daniel Gattuso in 8th and Matt Wright in 9th. Rounding out our top 10 is Andrew Ang.
The first person on row 6, I'm going to butcher his name, Philippe Urquhart. Starts with the double 1 position just in front of Don Good. Hideki Koifisto, who is battling for the lead in the Formula 2 Championship, starts the race in 13th position just in front of Johnny Bell. Gary Anderson starts the race today in 15th and he starts alongside Randu Huff. Paul Beatty starts on the inside of row 9 and just in front of the last driver with the qualifying time, Brian Beers. And rounding out the grid today, Robert Reynolds, who will start the race in 19th.
You can see the cars gridding up there down on the front stretch. Nicola Cocci, hard to miss, and his bright highlighter green or yellow car, depending on who you ask. With the lights coming up and the engines start to rev, green flag is out here in round 9 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. And it's a good start from Mick Claridge. Michel Dudignon struggling a bit, but gets himself solidly into 2nd, down into the Andretti hairpin. Trangarade getting that 3rd spot as they tussle behind, trying to settle out the mid-pack.
Yeah, a lot of positions or a lot of cones were flying around because Benjamin Soko hit some of them. He's going fairly loose at the moment through turn 3. Side by side with Nicola Cocci, who had a bad start, lost a lot of track position, but Nicola Cocci gets alongside and past Benjamin Soko for P5.
That was Daniel Gattuso. We saw have a bit of a problem coming out of turn 3, but successfully navigates from there. That does slip him down to 10th for him, unfortunately. Up at the front, all single file. So tough to pass here, so expect to see a lot of this, but that doesn't mean we won't be without action.
Nicola Cocci losing quite a bit of positions as he went wide through turn 6. He had to go through the gravel, and that caused several drivers to pass him, including Benjamin Soko. Benjamin Soko immediately getting the position back.
Looks like the corkscrew otherwise safe. And already, challenge for the lead as Mick Claridge had to go defensive into the final hairpin, and we could get some side-by-side action because Michel Dudignon gets a fantastic launch out of that final corner. So hard to keep the cars under control over this crest. You could see them squirming about, and somehow in all that, Mick Claridge gets back up into the lead, but another dive down to the inside through the middle of the Andretti hairpin is going to get Michel up to the front. The Frenchman tries to chop him off at the apex, can't quite do it. Still nobody giving up, but finally down into turn 4. I think he's got it done, Johan.
Yeah, more speed around the outside, and that causes Dudignon to get that position. Well, as they go, Cocci had a problem in the back, but still Dudignon and McLaren are side by side. Now McLaren has the upper hand because he has the outside line, and we saw earlier that it gives more speed. Now Dudignon is on the defensive. McLaren on the outside, both. Oh, they hit each other slightly. Slight tap on the front right of Michel Dudignon, and he immediately loses a position to over Trangarade. Behind him, I think that Gary Teal also around the Marco Kika on the outside of the corkscrew corner. Dudignon going from P1 to P3 and almost P4 because of that little tap in turn 6.
Wow, Ove Trangarade was brought into the mix because of them battling, and boy, he did not wait when he saw the opportunity come. Already, he's trying to challenge for the lead. whatever Mick had in qualifying, he's struggling here in the race. And I think every driver knows of how hard it is to pass. And so they are desperate here early to try and make something happen just so that they have track position. Another defensive move from Mick Claridge down into the Andretti hairpin. This time not quite so frantic through that second corner.
It seemed like De Jong won a lot of time under braking there. He could immediately close the gap towards Trangrate. It's really a Ford-car battle under a blanket now, Joe. They're so close together. Top 4 was within a second as they went over the start-finish line, and Gary Thiel was not far behind as well. Incredibly tight for the podium.
Make that a +1 because Gary Thiel has joined the party as well. So I think we got a 5-car fight. If they keep going back and forth like this, Ben Zocco isn't too far back. It's getting to be a bit of a truly train. So this makes me wonder if Mick Claridge's qualifying time was a little bit of a fluke. I just can't believe that everybody is so on top of him.
Yeah, I was literally thinking the same thing. It's so weird because you would almost expect like Mick Claridge will just drive away like he's done countless times in the past. But at the moment he has over Trangrate behind him, almost losing it. The Norwegian just keeps it under control, takes a wider line through the last corner. Maybe that would have helped him to get a little bit more speed, but at the moment it just sends De Jong a little bit closer to him. Able to maybe make a move, the French driver is. He's very close. Oh, Mick Claridge in front, however, is having trouble to slow his car down. He had to dive completely to the inside, almost lost it. De Jong still is in P3.
Wow, what a start to this race. And we've got to do 24 of these laps. So as they work their way through turn 4, they have been caught by Ben Zocco. And we did have a replay earlier, but I guess we're abandoning that. Nicola Koch, just an update, had a bit of an issue, and that sent him down into 11th now. But he is still going. A big slide from Ove Trangrate somehow keeps it out of the gravel. That finally gives a breather to Mick Claridge as he breaks for the corkscrew. But basically, since the start of this race, he has been under threat and having to fend off all comers.
Yeah, and your comment earlier about the Truly train, or in this case the Claridge train, isn't that far off because he's really holding everyone behind him very close. The drivers are not trying to make a lunge yet in the last corner. Ove Trangrate is well behaved, I have to say, until now, because he sees how much pressure De Jong is putting on him. He's not trying to do or die move to get a P1 position. He's just waiting for his opportunity, even though he seems a little bit further behind P1 than he was the last laps.
They're spreading out just a little bit. So let's take a glance down at 7th and give you an update on that, because there's a big gap down to Andrew Ang, 8.8 seconds. And we're only on lap 5 out of these 24. So he's falling back very, very quickly. Not as much of a train there, although Matt Wright is within striking distance if we see an error from the number 13.
Yeah, I think Andrew Ang had a good start because he immediately passed Matt Wright, and he like profited from the mistakes of Nicola Cocci and Daniele Guttuso, two drivers who started at 6th and 8th position and fell down quite a bit down the order. And Andrew Ang is just picking up the pieces and currently cruising in P7, and as you say, Joe, quite a bit behind Benjamin Zocco. But on a track like Laguna Seca, it's difficult to overtake. So as long as you don't make mistakes, I think that Andrew Ang can maybe surprise everyone here and go for a P7 result.
Nicola Cocci. Oh, Nicola Cocci just made contact, actually, with Philippe Urquhart, our new driver. I'm going to try and get the replay on this. Just got tipped off with the lightest of nudges in the corkscrew. And apologies if you're seeing a couple cars flashing here and there. There's something a little unusual happening with the connection to the cars out there. We're not quite sure what's going on. Just the tiniest of noses.
Shame for Philippe Urquhart, but at least he can continue, and he's still driving around out there on track.
Get a view here from Nicola Cocci on how that incident happened. Cocci able to continue. Urquhart is going to continue in a 12th as well. Nothing's changed up at the front since we looked away from them. It's still Claridge in first, Trangrate second, Dudignon third, and they're trailed by Kika, Teal, and Zoko. Although those three are starting to drop.
Yeah, where it was a 6-car battle early in the race, it's now 2 3-car battles, to be honest. Around 2 seconds between the two groups, but each group is very close together. As we see Dudignon here on the gearbox of Overtrangerate, he was very close through Rainy Curve, not able to make a move there through the last corner. It's such a difficult. You need a good run here to maybe try and move in turn 1. That's what Dudignon showed at the beginning of the race on McLaren. Not able to get a better run than Overtrangerate so far and try and move on lap 7.
I think Andrew Ang had a problem. We're going to pull up the replay. I'm not sure if maybe it was a cut course or something, because he just was very slow suddenly.
He fell down quite a bit. He's currently in P10 or P9, it seems like. So yeah, indeed, he fell down quite a bit. And I think it is indeed a cut course penalty that he got in the corkscrew corner.
Yeah, we saw there on the replay. It must have been very, very strict stewards, because it looked awful tight as to whether or not that was a cut course to me. But iRacing has deemed it such, and so that slots him down into 9th. And Nicola Kochi on his recovery. As we come back up to the leaders, Kochi's back to 7th.
While we were looking at that, Michel Dudillon got past Overtrangerate. It was a move down turn 3 of lap 7. Good move. He basically tried the up and under as we go to a replay here.
Yeah, not often that you see passes in this place, but just had a good run on him, stuck his nose in, confident move down to the inside. Trangerade saw it coming and let him through.
I think it was mostly a mistake of Overtrangerate. He went wide through turn 2, and that just cost him the speed on the run down to turn 3. But it's a very short straight, Joe, so the fact that he actually made a move and made it this clean, it's impressive work from Dudillon.
Now, we don't need to go back to it to see it again, but Andrew Ang has a second slowdown penalty in a row, and now he's down to 11th. And it was in the exact same spot, cutting that first apex on the corkscrew. Oh, the number 13 is going to have to work on his line through that corner. It is certainly sort of ruined what was a good first lap for him.
And especially when you make a mistake like that, it can just sing around in your head like, I made a mistake, and you try to make it up, and that's the moment that you maybe start making more mistakes and hurt yourself. And it seems like Andrew Ang is struggling with that a little bit. He's currently quite close behind Daniele Guttuso. Might be able to make a move on that top-end driver, but he's probably thinking about consolidating his P11 spot for now.
In this pack that we're looking at just ahead of them, Hideki Koivisto, a good mover. He started 13th, and right now he's sitting in 9th. Talked about keeping the car on track and just keep it moving. Well, I think that's exactly what the number 11 is doing right now.
Exactly. Well, another battle that we are seeing a little bit further down the field is between P15 to P17. Paul Beatty, Brian Beers, the newcomer, and Don Good. Don Good has fallen back a little bit. He started in 12th positions, currently driving around in 17th. But these three drivers are currently quite close with each other. I think that the quickest guy out there, Don Good, is trailing. So he'll probably trying to make some moves on the drivers in front of him, not only for his result this race, but also for the Formula 2 Championship.
Indeed. Beatty, a bit of a newcomer as well. We saw him last week at his home course of Bathurst, and I think we had a pretty fun interview with him. He was very excitable and had a good time. Hopefully he's having just as good of a time out here, but behind him, that battle you can see between Beers and Good, very, very close. They're going to separate a little bit through 1 and down into Andretti, so no attempt for now.
A little bit wider line there from Brian Beers, and that causes Don Good to catch up to him. Not able to get the power down quick enough to try and move like Dudillon did a few laps ago. Talking about Dudillon, he is completely caught up to the back of Mick Claridge at the moment as he's going through the last corner. You can see just a few tenths between the two drivers. In the meantime, they have dropped Overtrangerate. The Norwegian is almost 2 seconds behind Mick Claridge. It seems like it's a two-way battle for the lead now, Joe.
Yeah, I thought that maybe Mick had found his feet under him, but now that Michel has gotten by Trangerade, the pace that we saw in the warm-up certainly seems to be bearing fruit and is threatening our leader, Right on board with the UK&I driver as the Frenchman tries to poke and prod to see if there's any way past on this difficult circuit.
Michel de Dion very strong through that turn 5 corner, way close to the apex, taking more speed with him. Again through turn 6, he just seems to have a slightly better line than Claris. You can see that he edges a little bit closer and closer. Under braking, again, he's very strong under braking on several corners of this track. You can see that he immediately closes the gap almost down completely. He's really in the gearbox of Claritz now, putting him under pressure, showing in the mirrors left and right. Clarence doesn't know which way he's gonna go, but he knows he's there. He's very close. He can try to make a move in the last corner. He chooses the outside line, tries the same move that he tried early in the race, and that got him the P1 position for a few moments. He's in the slipstream now over this curve, this straight curve where you have to lift a little bit. You can send it down the inside now of turn 1, and again he stays on the outside. McLaren stays for now in P1, Joe.
Bit of a slide from both of them through Andretti, but they make it through fine. Very much putting the pressure on to Mick Claridge. These two are very wily to each other's tricks. It's going to take a lot for something to happen, but neither is going to give an inch. They've been battling for seasons, years actually, out here in these Lotus 49 cars. Great run through 3, 4, and 5 from Mick Claridge is going to put him a little bit more at a position of safety. Up 6, and another slide from Michel Dudignon through that fast left-hand kink. Not going to cost him too much time, but certainly not going to help him. They are hustling these cars. This is not a light race for them.
This is a really heavy battle between the two. You can see Mick Claridge there almost sideways through the corkscrew corner. Kept it under control, however. And one thing that I saw as to go, I think Dudignon is going to try and move once again on the outside. Side by side, he's in front now. He has to make a few more meters, but he can go earlier on the gas. But it seems like Mick Claridge had a great clean exit out of the last corner. Immediately able to create a gap and be in front of the French driver. And Dudignon once again not able to make that move for P1.
And that's multiple times now that we've seen Dudignon, as he tries for the over-under through Andretti. Oh, he's pulled a move down here to 3, but I told you these guys are wily. Claridge covers them off into that corner, even though, like I said, you don't often see passes. So very smart stuff from our leader. But that's twice now, coming out of turn 10, that banked right-hander, that Michel just seems so much faster, but it seems like he can't do anything with it down into the hairpin, Johan.
Well, one of the things that I saw on the forum was Mick Claridge saying earlier this week that he was struggling quite a bit with understeer on this track, and it might be that the problem with understeer is just hurting him, that he's not able to take as much speed with him through the corners, or to be as clean as he wants, or as tight as he wants. Because as you can see, it just seems like Michel Dudignon is a little bit quicker, and especially in the corners, he's winning a lot of time and a lot of track position as they're going to lap some traffic. That's Robert Reynolds who's putting his car to the side. Well done, Robert, but it separates both Dudignon and Mick Claridge a little bit. But like I said, Joe, I think that Mick Claridge, he mentioned earlier this week that understeer was hurting him, and it might be that we are seeing that here on track.
Yeah, great kudos to Robert Reynolds. His experience being a backmarker in this series lets him know exactly where to go out. And Michel Dudignon makes a big slide down into the Andretti hairpin. And we just saw the save behind him. We actually might not have seen it, but Ove Trainparade also did almost a carbon copy of that slide into the corner. Monkey see, monkey do.
And once you're following other cars, it's really easy to just copy what the cars in front of you are doing. It almost seems like we cannot see it from this replay.
Here we go.
Here we can see, you can see Ove Trainparade also just sliding his car, drifting it around turn 1 and turn 2. It's not the way to take the corner, although it looks extremely cool. This hurts Dudignon a little bit in his battle to Mick Claridge, over a second behind him, but we mentioned it before, it seems like Dudignon is the quickest driver, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Frenchman on the tail of Claridge in a few laps.
Indeed, ground to make up. Well, since it separated them, why don't we jump back to 5th? Because Gary Thiel, it was a little bit closer while we were watching that battle for the lead. He's been fending off Ben Zoko. Remember, this is important because Thiel is our championship leader, so he wants every point he can get. I have a feeling he's going to put up quite a fight for the number 6. He has been able to gap him up to 9/10 of a second now, so I don't anticipate to move immediately unless we see a mistake from the Virginia's driver. And I like Gary Teal's new paint scheme. Sinclair on the side of that. Not sure if that's a reference to age there, the dinosaur, but the gas, the petroleum company obviously looks very nice on these classic cars.
I 100% agree. That's one of the better liveries that we have seen. And you're talking about the importance of this battle as it is a battle for the championship, or another battle for the championship. We currently see in P8, Matt Wright and Hideki Koifisto. They're currently only separated by 0.7 of a second. These two drivers are battling for that P1 position in the Formula 2 championship. As it stands, Matt Wright is in front, so he will stay P1 in the Formula 2 Championship, but Hideki Koifisto is quick. He already made up 4 positions, as we mentioned earlier in the race, and he's looking to make a 5th by passing Wright.
Up through turn 5, a little bit tidier for Hideki Koivisto through that corner, but doesn't give an opportunity. Definitely don't want to try and go too wide through turn 6, so they stay single file. And I think he's a little too far back for the corkscrew. Koivisto regularly fighting for that F2 championship. And this season seems like his good results paying dividends once again. Way off the apex through rainy curve for Matt Wright. He goes back to the racing line and peaked down into turn 10. He's given room at the apex. Hideki Koivisto can't make it happen. He switches lines down to the inside of the final corner. Once again, still given room, but can't do anything with it. Now it's going to be a drag race down to turn 1. Can they handle the cars over the tricky crest? And it looks like Koivisto a little bit braver on the accelerator. They brake for the Andretti hairpin. And Matt Wright, just a little bit too deep into the corner. Give P8 to the Finn of Koivisto.
It is not over yet because he's just sends it on the inside in turn 3. Beautiful, courageous Daniel Ricciardo-like move from Matt Wright there. And he gets a position back immediately. I think Hideki Koivisto didn't expect him to make a move there. But the battle just continues because Hideki Koivisto immediately looking again on the inside of turn 5. Ooh, understeers a little bit towards the car of Matt Wright, but he avoids him. This is not a place where you want to make a move. Turn 6, it's really difficult to put it side by side. They go single file there. In the meantime, Daniele Guttuso is almost behind them. Koivisto trying a move on the outside, looking for a corkscrew, but not able to make a move so far.
Bit of a do-si-do between those two, and Daniel Gattuso brought into the mix. In fact, might be 4 cars because Andrew Ang is catching up to them with all the battling that these two are seeing. Certainly, even though this is mid-pack, you can tell how much it means to these drivers. On the front stretch once again, this is where we saw Hideki look incredibly confident over the car getting light through here. Are we going to see the same?
Matt Wright is defending the inside. He's smart. He saw last lap around how Hideki Koivisto almost got past him. We actually got past him and defended the inside now very well. Hideki Koivisto trying a look on the inside. Matt Wright missing the apex slightly in turn 3 there. Now that's going to cost him for deep corners. Koivisto getting a little bit slower but slides to turn 4. That costs him speed to make a move on the run down to turn 5 here. Now I think that Daniele Guttuso, the red car behind him, as we are currently going on board with the Italian driver, he might actually be the quickest of the 3. He was the one that qualified the furthest ahead with a 1:21. While for example Hideki Koivisto only managed to 23. Oh, as Matt Wright goes, Matt Wright loses it. That's such a shame for the championship leader in the Formula 2 championship. Just went wide for turn 6 and couldn't save his car. So we go to a replay of the incident.
The Australian very graphically demonstrates how hard it is to find the line through that blind turn 6, just slightly off, and as the rear snapped out on him, there was no saving it. He slots down into 11th, and now under threat from Philippe Urquhart, who we haven't checked in on since his incident earlier on. This is for 11th between those two. You're not missing anything up at the front. Claridge is stretched away from Dudignon. It was up to 2 seconds at one point, but Michel, the Frenchman, tried to reel him back in bit by bit. And Ove Trangrade has fallen off both of them Not sure what exactly happened to him because he was within a second, but it's now 4.5 that he is back from Dudignon.
It's interesting to see how they're yo-yoing between each other because Dudillon was that much quicker in the beginning part of the race. But now McLaren seemed to really found his stride, found his rhythm, and he's just putting quick, consistent lap times. And you can see in the timer on top, it's almost 1.5 seconds that he's driving away from Dudillon. As I'm saying that last time around, it seemed that McLaren was almost half a second slower. So it might also be that Dudillon is just falling back a little bit and trying to battle his way towards McLaren once again. As we go to a replay, I see of Brian Beers who had problems in the caution corner.
Indeed, braking, the car gets light over that crest, a little bit too light for Brian Beers, and he lost control. He's had to take a tow. This might be a day done for the Hoosier. Sad to hear in his first time out in the broadcast race.
Only the first retirement we've seen so far. It's a very clean race from all the drivers out there.
Yeah, not without incidents, though. Robert Reynolds was in the pits at one point. Not sure exactly what happened to him, that he needed that. Gary Anderson as well has gone in and back out. But otherwise, everybody else, despite spins and contacts we've seen, still going and haven't come into the pits to take any repairs. Just trying to go straight to the end. Closest battle out on track at the moment is for 8th position. That's Coivisto and Gattuso still going at it, even though... Oh, and Kochi with an off and a tow.
Oh, from bad to worse. Let's see what happened with the Italian driver. Oh, kablam. Yeah, he blew his engine there in turn 5 on the downshifting.
Got to be careful in these cars, even though they do have rev limiters on them. They downshift too quickly, and this is what happens to you.
Yeah, that's a hard day in the office for Nicola there. He had a good start, some good fights at the beginning, fell back of course, battled his way forward, and it's a shame to see his race end in the gravel as it just did.
Yeah, with him being as far up as he was, could have been a much better result. Man, Michel Dudignon is not driving like how we've seen him. He had a big slide through 6th, managed to save it, but this is unusual for a driver who tends to be very smooth and very confident.
The problem with Michel Dudignon is he lost a lot of time this time around because he had to avoid Randy Huff. He was trying to lap Randy Huff on the rundown towards turn 1, and Randy Huff almost lost control of his car. Michel Dudignon had to send the car through the gravel to avoid Randy. He managed to do so, but he lost almost 2-3 seconds because of that. As you can see on top of the screen, it's almost 3 seconds that he's currently behind McLaren. It will be heavy, a difficult challenge for the French driver. Better forward. We go to a replay here. I think that's a replay of the incident. You can see him go here through the last corner. McLaren is not that far in front. He's actually passing some lap traffic there. As you can see on top of the screen, Randy Huff getting a little bit loose, almost taking the French driver out. Might have been a little bit contact, yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to say wheel to wheel, and that can be very dangerous. Because with these being open wheel cars, that could have sent him flying. Woo! Wow.
Good car control though, to not spin the car but actually keep it in a straight line and not lose more time or even a position to over-triangulate in P3.
Heart in your throat moments for the Frenchman, but he's able to keep going. This has not been the sort of race that he wanted. He had a chance to take the lead away. He started in second, and he's still in second. I'm thinking Michel might be thinking he could have had more. With 5 laps to go, he's going to have to hustle or hope for a mistake from our leader.
Talking about that, I think that McLaren made a mistake this lap around because he lost almost a second to Michel Dudignon. The French driver really putting down the hammer at the moment. And McLaren's only putting down a 20.7. That's by far his slowest lap time, I think, of the whole race. So McLaren's struggling a little bit with that lead. And the French driver ever getting closer and closer to put the pressure on him in the last few laps.
Love the liveries that they get in this series. There's a lot of personal meaning to them. You can see on McLaren That is actually his real car's paint job. It's a classic machine. I want to say it's a Charger, but if I've got that wrong, I apologize. And then Dudignon, of course, many of you probably noticed a Matra, a French make back from this era of F1 racing. Very appropriate for him.
P9 and P8, Daniele Gattuso and Andrew Ng going side by side over the start-finish train. Gattuso had quite a bad last corner, went very sideways, but Andrew Ng just completely heading out of this battle, went quite a bit on the brakes to let the Italian driver go in front once again. But these drivers have been pretty close so far, Joe, with each other. Hideki Kofizo has driven away from Gattuso. It now seems that the Italian is under pressure by Andrew Ng.
That was Reynolds slowing to let them try to get by. This is some of our closest battling on the track at the moment. I know we've got a bit of one between Wright and Urquhart behind them as well. But this one between Ng and Gattuso is for P8 out on track. So despite the difficulties that cars have in passing here, I'd say we've had plenty of excitement to give us a show in today's race, as Gattuso has to gather the car together under braking for the corkscrew.
Sorry, Matt Wright spins on the rundown towards corkscrew corner over the little bump. He just loses control of his car. Now Philippe Urquhart, who was just behind him, didn't have any contact. And I think that Matt Wright actually, he just hit the wall very soft. So I think Coutinho, as we see in the replay here, just loses control, puts it softly in the wall. So an onboard replay of the incident from the view of Philippe Urquhart, Joe.
You're going at a high rate of knots at this point. Urquhart, probably glad he didn't spin back in front of him. So that's got to be scary for Wright, with the car going completely around right as it's cresting at top speed. He is able to keep going in 11th spot, so only one position lost from that incident.
Yeah, well done to keep it out of the wall further, because if you go that quick that you're going on the rundown towards the corkscrew corner, it's so easy to just flip your car even and completely destroy it.
A little bit farther down, Don Good on the back of Randy Huff. They're also not too far behind Johnny Bell. Bell in 12th, Huff 13th, Don Good in 14th spot. Everybody up in front of them has separated by quite a margin, so this is our closest fight on the track down into the final hairpin. Good takes a look, but I don't think that was a serious move. He was nowhere near. In fact, it compromises his exit. You can see all the time that he lost.
Don Good not having a good race so far. He started in P12. He fell down the order a little bit, but he's trying to fight his way back forward. And with only 2 more laps to go, I think that Don Good wants to make at least one more pass before this race is over. He's getting a little bit closer to Randy Huff. It seems like Don Good is a little bit tighter. Hitting the apex quite well. Getting closer and closer to Randy Huff. But Johnny Bell in front of him also having quite an okay race. These are the first drivers 1 lap down. Johnny Bell winning 2 positions so far. Randy Huff winning 3 positions so far. It's interesting to see if these cars get a little bit closer and we see some overtakings in the last lap.
Indeed, white flag is out. In fact, just taken by Mick Claridge. He had some excitement at the start. He was very much under threat, had some worries from Michel Dudignon, but despite not the greatest of seasons, I think Mick trying to bounce back just to get himself some wins under his belt in this series for Season 3 here in iRacing's Lotus 49 World Cup. He's going to have to lap Robert Reynolds one more time, and Reynolds is going to pull over here on the run up to turn 6. There we go, lets him by. So with only half a lap to go, Michel Dudignon might have the number 1 in his car because of his highest I rating in this field. But unless we get a major error from Mick Claridge, I don't think he's going to take P1 today.
Michel Dudignon almost lost it. Sorry to interrupt there. He almost lost it on the rundown out of corkscrew corner.
Still pushing every inch of the way in hopes that he could take it. But I don't think so, because today the win is going to go to the UK&I driver Mick Claridge as he accelerates to the line here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
You cannot fault Michel de Dion for trying in that last lap, because I counted 2 moments that the French driver almost lost control of the car. But in the end, de Dion comes across the finish line in 2nd position, completing the podium. Behind him, Ovid Stranglerate, who fought for the lead in the opening stages. He has to settle for P3 in the end with a beautiful spin there. Beautiful 360.
Didn't give him a whole lot of love, but Marco Kika managed to finish in 4th today, which is where he qualified. But man, great run from him.
Oh, Soko has having some trouble. He decided to
stop. Okay, he's just having some fun here at the end, but maybe hot. He just lost positions doing that. Maybe he was handing a spot back?
No, there was Johnny Bell and Don Good, so those were lapped cars. Benjamin Soko actually came across the line in 6th position.
Yeah, he's good.
Trying to do a burnout. I've seen cars actually running out of fuel at that part of the track, so I was like...
It's uphill to the line, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so Matt Wright's going to be the last one across the line. Everybody else a lap down. With that, we are going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Laguna Seca. We just watched round 9 in the Lotus 49 World Cup, and it was a good one, especially those first few laps out on track, probably about 8 laps of battling for the lead. But in the end, Mick Claridge came away with the win, and we're trying to confirm this stat. We'll get that updated for you later. We think this is his first win this season on the broadcast races. Michel Dudignon hassled him the whole way, but still about 2.3 seconds behind him when the checkered flag fell. Ove Trangarade eventually fell back a little ways, but he still takes a podium. Marco Kika going to add to his tally with consistency, even though he might not take the championship. This is going to be, I think, perhaps the best season we've seen points-wise from Marco Kika. Gary Thiel takes 5th, and Benjamin Zoko is going to finish in 6th, giving us a little bit of a scare at the end there. Hideki Koivisto from 13th to 7th. What a drive by this guy. And then Daniela Gattuso is going to take 8th. Andrew Ang finishes in 9th today. And in his first race that we've seen him on the broadcast, Philippe Urquhart is going to get a top 10.
Yeah, the last driver on the lead lap, Matt Wright, probably wondering what could have been if he didn't drop his car on the rundown towards the corkscrew. He sees the championship drive on the Formula 2 Championship, Corvisto, get a good result and come ever closer in the standings. Johnny Bell finishes 12th position out there, winning 2 positions out on track. Don Good had some trouble but brought his car home in P13 in front of Randy Huff. Paul Beatty closes out the top 15. Winning 2 positions out there on track today, and then a few drivers that had several problems during the race, a few laps down in the end. Gary Anderson comes home in 16th position. Robert Reynolds brings his car home in 17th position, and then the 2 retirees of today, Nicola Cocci with a blown engine, and Brian Beers, who ended his race the wall.
And our winner ready to talk to us, Mick Claridge. As we were looking through our stats ourselves, trying to confirm what you suspect. Is this right, Mick? This is your first win of this season?
I'm not sure, Joe. You probably know more than me. I think it is.
We're pretty sure, too. I don't have my sheet in front of me, but going back by memory, I think you're right. Now, early on in the race, you had Michel all over top of you. And somehow you managed to pull away. What was causing him to be able to challenge you in the early stages, but not later on?
I think it's probably because I used lower tyre pressures than him. And I know he just put up on the chat message that he changed his set a little bit. He was a little bit quicker than me in practice before the race. He was about a 10th quicker. And he had already told me before the race that he ghosted our race on Thursday. I raced on Thursday, and he said that I was a lot quicker in that race. So I went back to that setup, what I used in that race, you know.
Very smart stuff. That's it amazes me the level of competition you two hold, and also just never giving up out on track. We're seeing on the replay right now, you two going side by side through turn 1 down to Andretti hairpin. How hard is it to hold the cars together over that crest when you have someone next to you?
Oh, it's really tough, you know, especially because I'm using Oculus, so it's a lot worse than triples, you know, if you want to see what's going on outside. So yeah, it's really tough, and that was the main problem at the start, you know. I'm sure he would have been using 19s on the left and 18.5s on the right, but I just thought I'll try 18.5s on the left as well, and I was quicker than him through the right hand bends. I noticed that it was quite a margin, you know, and yeah, so going back, yeah, it's really tough. And then going through the I don't know what that corner's called, where you turn left under the bridge. You know, yeah, I did apologise because I think I touched him there. I didn't really see what happened, but I know it put him behind Uwe at the start. But yeah, that was tough. I mean, I looked at him to the left, you know, as he was going up that hill, and I thought, oh no, we want to go down here and too wide into this bend. You know, it's not, you know, I'm going to come off or he's going to come off. Something's going to happen. I really didn't think we'd make it through there too wide, you know, as well as we did.
Oh, it certainly caused us to get to the edge of our seats. Now, we have an unusual track choice for next week. It's Watkins Glen, which seems normal, but it's the boot configuration with the inner loop. Do you know why you guys chose that, or was it an error that you just let sit, or how are your feelings about having that extra little bit on the backstretch?
No, we've wanted to do that layout for a while, you know, because every time you run the classic layout, it's you know yourselves how close that race is all the time. I mean, you know, I got bored, Michelle as well. You know, how many times we overtook each other in that track. You just can't get a gap, you know, on that layout because there's so few corners. So we just wanted to mix it up a bit and try something different. You know, that's all it was.
Yeah, well, that'll be fun for us to watch, and we hope you get a few more wins this season. It's been fun seeing you and Michelle battle it out the times you've been together, and congratulations on the win.
Yeah, cheers, Joe. Yeah, when you said about the surprise, I thought you was going to talk about Talladega next season.
No. Are you guys actually doing that next season?
Yeah, we've done it. We've
My goodness.
submitted it, and it's going to happen. So yeah, watch out. It's going to be mental.
I'm not sure if we'll do a lap guide for that or not, but we'll talk to you again later, bud.
Cheers, Joe.
That's McClarich winner here today, and I believe we have Gary Teal up next. He finished in 5th, and so Johan's going to talk to who was our championship leader. I don't think anymore, unfortunately.
Gary Teal, welcome in the booth. You've started the race in P5. You finished the race in P5. Was the quiet race out there? How was it from your perspective?
Pretty dull, actually.
You actually had a...
The qual time here.
I think Gary's a little quiet here. You'll have to turn your mic up a little bit or put it a little closer, Gary.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Yeah, so it was kind of a lonely race. I kept Marco in sight, but I just couldn't catch him. So it was a pretty dull time trial, more or less, for me.
At the beginning of the race, you actually had a very good battle. You had 6 cars under a blanket. Do you feel like you maybe were a little bit too conservative at that moment in the race, that you maybe should have tried a move on Marco Kika to get that P4 position and move your way forward, or was it just too difficult to overtake around this track?
Well, for me, it was too difficult, but that's probably one of my shortfalls, is I'm a little bit too conservative on things. But I still don't think I could have caught him. Even if I would have got up to him, it's just very difficult to pass anybody here unless they make a sizable mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least you came home in P5. You score a good amount of points for the championship that you, of course, were leading. I was wondering, like, how much are you busy in your head with that championship? Are you actually looking at what Michel Dudillon is doing on track at the moment and then trying to measure your results against him, or are you just taking every race as it comes?
Well, to tell you the truth, the only reason was in first place at all was because people either weren't showing up, or people like Ove just had some bad offs at the beginning. I'm probably usually down about probably anywhere from 5th to 10th place here. So it's just I guess with the summer coming, people aren't practicing as much, or they aren't showing up.
Yeah, at least showing the results so far. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in P1 in the championship, and you're 5th out there today. Next week, we go to Watkins Glen Boot. We just heard Joe talk about it with McLaren. How do you feel about that track? Is it a track that really is good for you? Do you feel comfortable on that track?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here 10 years now, so I've probably got 50-plus races there. I'm not sure how many in the Lotus 49, but I'll be comfortable there. The other thing about this series here is it's so predictable with, I can pretty much predict who's going to finish in front of me with about an 80% accuracy rate. But I'll do okay there.
Okay, well, it will be exciting to see you there on track. Thank you for talking with us, Gary Teal, and we'll see you again next week.
Yep, thanks for the broadcast, guys. Bye.
That was our 5th place finisher, Gary Teal. And, well, it might seem predictable from his viewpoint, but I feel like every weekend we're not sure exactly how things are going to play out. These cars are so tough to drive. They certainly bring a lot of errors out, which you don't see as much in some of the other more grippy cars in this service. But we're going to close up today. And of course, we want to give a big thank you both to Ben Zocco and the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Ben Zocco, of course, has taken the reins for organizing the community to gather up the funds. So that's why he deserves special thanks there. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, if you head on over to our YouTube page, there's a big red button that says subscribe. If you hit that, you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. We mentioned it. We're going over to New York, the other side of the country, for Watkins Glen in the boot configuration with the inner loop. That'll be a fun one for these guys. See what kind of new challenges that provides. That'll be August 18th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.